media did not have what we call an eco-friendly environment which it could operate. The media operated to enhance the freedom of expression because it realized that. And we can say that after the Second World War, when the NATO leadership started and said, we'd like to actually take democracy to Africa, what will be the critical tool? They quickly recognized the media. And when they introduced the freedom of expression within the African content, what came about was the whole idea of establishing the public media. It was not the state media then, it was the public media. And because media was connected to development, media was connected to growth, media was connected to enhancement, and of course of realizing people's realities and also rights. And when John was speaking about whether we've actually extended the media culture, Philip Ochieng, I must say, I must actually give him some credits, and his team created a great media culture. Then when you entered into the media newsroom, you knew you were actually going for a calling. It was not for the payment. It was to expand that freedom of expression. And when you enter in that, what we call the Old Nation Media House, and Philip sat in his room and came out and looked at you with whether your article was worth publishing, he was not able to speak to you. You quickly realized that you needed to actually make a correction to make sure that your article talked to what the media principle was. And the media culture then was your story well researched? Was there more than one source of the story? And if you, let's say, you accused the other person, did you give them the right to speak? And was your story also not defamatory and was not going to put the media houses into what we call liability? So this brings me to actually also look at what Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1787, where he says that rather a country with a newspaper or a government without a newspaper, let me put it, newspaper without a government over a government without a newspaper. And the fact that Jefferson by that time recognized the importance of the media showcased how when media was referenced as the fourth estate is not just any other sector, but a critical sector to the human rights and to the every citizen being. So linking it to also the fact that the 21st century, over the issues that have changed with the freedom of expression and the social media and the technology, I think the culture is still the same. It's just that the practice was what have changed. And we need to still maintain that culture. And we need to still look into how can we make the media become a trustworthy. What John alluded that the trust to the media is actually falling. Remember when our grandmother could describe the radio as a tool that hears far and a TV as a tool that sees far, simply because they trusted the radio and the TV. And we need to go back. How can we be able, even with our fourth industrial revolution, that our mobile phone, when we turn it into a publishing platform, can still be a tool that listens and sees far. Maybe I'll explain about the demography and also the resource of the media later on, but we are seeing an opportunity not as something, because I was asked to respond what is being done right and what is being done wrong. And maybe I can, okay. What is being done right is that the media sector has grown. When we looked at this Constitution of Kenya 2010 Article 34 on the freedom of expression of the press, it gave the media liberal platform. That's why we are seeing so many media houses. And what is being done wrong is that the public media is not being recognized as public media, because that's actually a government, not even a government, it's a public right to be able to receive the information using the public media. and the bandwidth that the government by that time could lease to the private ownership is owned by the citizen. And the expansion of the frequency is again owned by the citizen. So what is being done right is the liberalization of the media, but what is not being done right is the recognition that media as a sector, the public has got the right to it because our tax goes to it. Our tax goes to its development. The other aspect is the news desk approach that was talked about. The news desk was a portal in which all the information, in fact, if your information was not published within the news, the news book, then it was not being covered. And now that everyone can now send messages to editors that I'm having this session, is not being channeled through a news desk approach. And so the news desk is trying to catch up with the information that is happening, and even the publishing and the social media setting the agenda. But we are saying that even though the social media is setting the agenda, the media houses can still coalesce this information and publish them in an analysis way, in analysis that can be able to bring new insights to what is already happening, and in a way in which the public can come out and say, actually, I've learned something. Because knowledge now is the key thing, new information is critical, and access to that information has been given by the Constitution of Kenya. We need to still look at how do we make this access to information relevant to an ordinary person. The last one I'd like to speak about is that when we look at the election and we look at how the media is reporting the election has become as a critical sector, I think, for the country, and the media has become as a critical tool. The question we need to ask ourselves, has the government put the right resources to make sure that the election has been covered or is going to be covered well? Or is the media trying to do their own work to make sure that they cover it? From experience we had, especially when we have witnessed the various election violence since 1991 up to 2007, the media, and seeing through the KEG and the Media Council, we're not talking about covering the media from a peaceful perspective, also covering the election peacefully, but also changing the narrative. What are the key issues are we trying to highlight as the narrative here? The narrative is that we have a country that has been peaceful, needs to be peaceful, and we have a country that majority are the youth. We have a country that has got resources. We have a country that looks at one's leaders that is going to take it to the next level, because commercialization of the globalized market is making Kenya not, if we don't reposition it, will not be recognized. And lastly, also, we need the sector to be trained on media ethics as well as the journalistic principle. And these are the things that Philip Ochieng could tell you when you enter into the newsroom. You have to be objective, you have to be fair in the way you write, you have to give content inside of equal opportunity, you have to cross-check of the information, you have to use more than one source, you have to make sure that you facilitate the contenters, especially when you are in radio or TV, you give them the opportunity to even showcase, and also marginalized community. This is where I came in to make sure that the women also got the right voices to be able to also articulate what from their side of the story, because gender communicating is different from the way we communicate. So the majority will still rely on media as their source of information, maybe the trust is falling. They'll still see media as a key source whenever it comes to key decision. So we still have got a key factor here, we still we've got a key role as the sector, and as individuals, as professionals, we don't need to actually, water down our professional. We need to make sure that the whole nation rely on us to be able to elevate the industry, but also be able to make sure that our people get the right information at a critical time like this.